Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, and it is my honor and pleasure to have back for part three Heath Hatton. Heath, thanks so much for doing this. We've got a lot of stuff to catch up on.
Yeah, we've been hit and miss. Both of us have had every time we plan to do it, something comes up,
Yeah.
and but I'm glad we're finally getting to it.
Um. So the last time we did this, the first interview was kind of really about your time in AAPW and subsequently Pro Wrestling Collision, and then in part two, you kind of talked about your time in Stride and your philosophy around that, and um, we did those over the pandemic year where Stride wasn't able to run um, as often as any of us would have liked, but 2021 comes around and you're able to start running shows again regularly, and you find yourself in a program that I wouldn't have ever really expected from Stride with Cash Borden. And had Cash on the show. He's a great guy. He kind of, talked about his input and what his ideas were going into that storyline. But what were you kind of thinking, and what made you want to take, for all intents and purposes, kind of a risk in a storyline like that for a promotion that's based in Southern Illinois and just a family friendly promotion like Stride?
Well, to be honest, we laugh about this a lot. Me and Cash do. Cash thought I didn't like him. He thought that he did. I didn't like him. He thought that I thought he was a death match guy or whatever. And we've talked about I think on this podcast we talked about it. I'm honestly, honest to God, you can ask anybody. I'm kind of an introvert. I don't. I'm not I don't sit around. This is kind of off subject a little bit, but kind of a little bit. Everybody you've had on, when you Bull and Cash and Spade, they all told you when you asked them Heath Hatton, they all three said he's a great dad. Like that was their definition of me. And back when I was younger, it used to offend me because I spent so much time wanting to be a wrestler. But now it's like if I die and I'm known as a great dad to these, then I've done my job because I've
Right.
always put my family first. So when I go to these shows, and I always went, being a dad, I've been wrestling for 12 years, and my daughter's 14. So she's been here the whole time I've wrestled, and that's always been my number one priority. Everything I've done has been based around her. So when I go to these wrestling shows and I'm there, I kind of keep to myself, um,
Right.
because I partied obviously, and I ran wild in college and stuff, and but when she came along, I didn't do that stuff anymore. And the wrestling is it's a party scene.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And however, I had always been a fan. I was a Strictly Insane, and Cash was there, and I had always been a fan of Cash. The way he was on the mic and the way he interacted with the crowd, and he was a really talented wrestler. And I knew that even years before when I first started at Alney, when I would go up there for IWAP on Wednesday nights and stuff, I always thought he was extremely talented. Well, he had came into Stride, and he came in with Dalton, and they I had booked him in a storyline, and then something had happened, and Cash couldn't come, and he canceled the day of the show, and it wasn't his fault. But anyway, he no showed me, and then the next month he couldn't make it again, and so I just kind of took it at the time as Stride's just not a priority, and
Right.
that's okay. I can't pay a whole lot, and Cash is, he travels and he does stuff, and I kind of felt like Stride's not a priority, so I didn't book him. Well, Anyway, there got rumors that I didn't like him and I didn't want him to come and I didn't care for him, and people were like, "We heard you got heat with Cash and all this stuff." And I could remember thinking at the time, I could make this an angle. If Cash ever wanted to come back, I could definitely make this an angle. Well, anyway, I reached out to Cash and talked to him and asked him if he wanted to come in, and he did. And I messaged him and I said, "Hey, I don't have a problem with you." And he was like, "Okay, good. I don't have a problem with you." And people talk and say things. And he came back, and when he came back, believe it or not, I brought him back because I wanted to wrestle him. That's the honest to God truth. I brought him back because I wanted to have a feud with him. However, we had we were we were building something for me and Tony Flood to do the Iron Man, and I needed something for Cash to do. And Cash and Jay Spade had the dog collar match at Stridiversary, and it's on YouTube. It has like 30,000 views or something. And that match stole the show. It was better than our Iron Man match. And I kind of felt like at that time, Cash doesn't need to be in a feud with me. I just dropped the title. I'm putting Red Daniels over. I'm making Red the new top baby face. And Cash needs to be the top heel. He just had the best match at Stridiversary, and he's so good. And I wanted to wrestle him, but I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do something with Kevin. So me and Kevin are going to tag together. We're going to be the tag team champs. I'm going to wrestle with Spade and Flood, who I'm friends with and I like to wrestle. And I'm going to put Cash with Red Daniels. And then I had the idea, and I don't know, you probably weren't around at this time, but I actually put all four titles, all the titles, except the tag team titles, on Cash. He won the No Limits, he won the Legacy, and he won the heavyweight title. And he had them all three. And then we had a show called Cashing In, and Cash lost all of them. And all of this that I do, it is strategic. So I book it where he has to defend all three in one night. So I'm the one that book it. So I'm doing all this in my mind, thinking how I can get to Hatton and Cash. So we're getting ready to do it, and then COVID happens. So the whole time I'm planning, who's the one that booked for Cash to lose all the belts? Well, it's me. So who should Cash be mad at? Me. So, and then COVID happened. So I'm like, so we just get shut down. And, and before that, I actually promised Mike Masters that he asked me if his last match could be against me, and he wanted to include his son. So we told the story, and I kind of put me and Cash on the back burner, and, and so anyway, but the whole point of all of that was to get to me and Cash, and then COVID happened. So I couldn't. And Cash, the last Stridiversary show where I beat Mike and retired him, Cash lost to Red Daniels. It was all this beautiful written story to get to me and Cash, and COVID happened. And so anyway, we had to do, then we came back, and there were like 50 people could be in the building, or 10. So we decided to start doing closed tapings. And I was like, you know what? Me and Cash can do this perfect. We're doing these closed sets, and we can just use mic work, and we can do promos, and we can play off each other. And I wrote, Cash, and I said, hey, what would you think of this? I know it doesn't work now the way that I booked it from the beginning, but how? And then Cash was like, oh my God, I have all these ideas. And he sent them, and we just gelled instantly.
I know when during his interview he mentioned that one of the big inspirations behind this thing was the Robin Williams movie 1 Hour Photo. There's like some of that like that he took out of that Do you recall any ideas, any other ideas like that whenever you were setting up this storyline?
Not really. It was. I just kind of my inspiration behind it, honestly, was I kind of I used basically wrestling fan logic, where and what people, what marks and people in the business think, where it's like, oh, that guy's the champ because he's the booker. I mean, I know you've had Edmund on here and Utah. We won't go into that whole story, but him and Shane Rich's views on opinions,
Yeah.
and that guy's booking, and so I kind of was like, I could really use this as a disgruntled guy who, you know, works a dead end job, who is a terrible wrestler, who nobody likes him because of the way he looks. And I mean, and then you have this guy who's a booker who owns this company, house on a hill, all this stuff. And I kind of had like, I can make it where Cash is jealous of me. It wasn't really an inspiration. It was actually more like how I feel like wrestling fans are,
Right.
like how I feel like they view things, like, especially, now, I mean, really now, wrestling fans are like, oh, WWE's not doing that because of this. And, AEW, and so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was like, it was, I felt like it was the perfect time. And, and then Cash, he's brilliant. I mean, he's just such a smart guy.
You
And,
real sidebar about Cash, like he plays that part well of his character. But when he reminds me of John Moxley, in that you buy that this is like a dude that's like messed up and seen some things and done some things. But then when you have a conversation with him, you realize how smart he is.
oh man,
Similar to like when
that's the
you
thing is, yeah,
like
I mean, just as far as not even in wrestling, just, just he is, as far as his, his job. I mean, he's a boss at a job. I mean,
yeah.
and I mean, that's kind of, he's an excellent dad now, and I mean, he's a real smart, intelligent guy. And this whole feud, I mean, this was, I could send you messages of us just back and forth bouncing ideas. And I mean, we couldn't, our promos, I mean, we couldn't get through them without laughing. I mean, actually, the episode where he came to my house.
Yeah, I could tell that. That's what I was gonna ask you about that. That was I shouldn't have laughed because I'm getting like you're going for a really kind of horrifying thing, but like this dude who looks like Cash just strolls into your house and he's eating your chips and he's drinking your soda and it's like I can't help but laugh at something like that.
I mean, it was. I mean, it was just. If you go back and watch it, I actually start laughing at one point, because I didn't. I don't want. Where Cash works at and what he does in real life, but I brought that up on accident, and I didn't realize that I did it. And he goes, "Dude, really, that hurts." And like he says it so serious, and I mean, I started laughing, but we had already tried like 3 times to get through this stinking thing, and neither one of us could keep a straight face. And it was, and I mean, it was just funny. I mean, he was so good with my kid, and and my wife, and it was just, we were able to stretch it out. And and actually at one point we thought about ending it, and we were having so much fun and it was working that asked, can we keep going? And it's one of those things where we had never worked together, and we never worked together. And I think it was, he thought that I didn't like him. And I think people thought, oh, these two will definitely not go together. And these two would definitely not mesh in the ring. And I looked at it like from the opposite, where I'm like, this would be money. This would be brilliant. This would be fantastic. And once I reached out to Cash, and I think he said it when you interviewed him, he was like, I thought you didn't like me. And I was like, dude, no, you're talented. I don't think of you as a deathmatch guy. I don't think of you, I think of you as a really good wrestler. I mean, I love your spot. And when we started putting stuff together, I can remember the first time we wrestled each other. I'm like, okay, so you do this spot here, and Cash was like, you know what moves I do, and I'm like, dude, I'm a fan. You know, I enjoy watching you work. I booked this because I'm a fan of yours. I enjoy, and he was, and I think he kind of realized like, oh, okay, like we're on the same page, and then we both just had fun with it.
um, so eventually, you do, stretch out your feet with Cash, and it culminates in a very brutal, uh, no holds barred match, and you guys took a risk that night again. And maybe it didn't all go according to plan, but I commend everybody for wanting to take that risk in stride. What was the idea behind uh, having that match, the finish of that match, and if you feel comfortable with it, take me through the fallout, the real world fallout that happened after that match.
I mean, I almost got divorced, you know, but you know, Cash was, you know, we had done the family thing, him coming to the house, and Cash was real adamant about Rachel getting involved, and he really wanted that, and he, that was, you know, and that was him, and then I kind of felt like we have to do stuff with tax, and we have to do stuff, and because that's what Cash is known for, you know, and so you know, we put it together, and I can remember he texted me and he said, hey, he said, I'd like to knock you on some tax. And I said, okay, you know, we'll do it. And I can remember everybody was like, oh my God, you're going to go on that side of Heath Hatton thing. And I said, I'm doing this, you know, I'm doing this for Cash. You know, this is what he wants. And I, you know, and I just respect him. And I, you know, he's putting me over and he's gonna, you know, lose to me, and I'd like to do that. Well, um, he had a he kept saying, because we did the whole light bulb thing with the guys, and he attacked the trainees, and he kept saying, "I want Rachel to hit me with a light bulb," and that's, you know, Rachel's my wife for you guys listening, and Rachel did not want to hit Cash with a with a light bulb, and she did not, and Cash. So the day of the show, that day, I actually sent Cass a message, and I said, "Are you sure you want to do this light bulb spot?" And he's like, "Yes, yes, I do." And he's like, "Are you having second thoughts?" And I said, "Yeah, you know, I mean, just I don't want it to go bad, and you know, I'm not experienced in stuff like this, and I don't want you to get hurt." And he's like, "Dude, it's fine. I've done it 100 times. It's not a big deal." So we get there, and Cash pulls her aside, and Rachel does. She, you know, she's you know, I'm a wrestler. That's what I do. That's what I did. And that's when she met me. That's what I did. And you know, she met me, you know, 6 years ago, and you know, I wrestled. That's what I did. And you know, my daughter's grown up in it, and everybody knows my daughter's in it. Everybody knows my daughter's a wrestling kid. And so anyway, we um, Cash pulls her aside, and you know, and I tell my wife this all the time. Because she asked me, you know, I call wrestlers to this day, and I'll text them, and I'll be sitting there, and I'm gonna call Axe. Be like, okay, I haven't talked to him. I want to talk to him, and she doesn't. She understands the bond, and so the fact that, you know, that Cash wanted it, she felt safe,
Yeah.
and Cash convinced her it was okay, and so anyway, we go through it, and everything goes the way it's supposed to go, and she hits him in a just a fluke accident. It explodes, and it cut up his back, and he had to get like 28 staples, and then Rachel was just mortified. I mean, just absolutely. I mean, uh, you know, I sat at the hospital with um, Nikki Driftwood and till 2 o'clock in the morning, and I mean, I felt about as bad as you could feel, and she felt terrible. But now we're over it and we laugh. And I mean, it was kind of a great ending to it. But I mean, at the time, she was not a happy wife. She was definitely mad at me, and luckily Cash, he did, being the class act guy that he is, sent her a message and said, "This is not your fault. This was my idea. I wanted this. I requested it, and your husband tried to talk me out of it the day of, and I didn't. And he's like, this is not your fault." And then he was out for a while, and then I actually kind of wrote myself out of Stride's storyline because I kind of felt like I had nowhere to go at that point. We had
Right.
just done that, and I really just didn't feel like I had anything to bring to the table. I really felt like Riser had stepped up, and he was what I thought he could be, and he was drawing a crowd and popular, and me and Cash just had this, and I kind of felt like Cash is gone. This is time for me to write myself out, and I did. I decided, I really have nowhere to go and nothing to offer, and at this time, and I kind of left, and Cash healed, and that's pretty much how that ended.
So you write yourself out of Stride. Um, you start doing some bookings with Ohio Valley Wrestling. You mentioned in the past you've been there before, but correct me if I'm wrong. That was before Al Snow started kind of taking over the promotion. Um,
Yes.
Take me through how you got back into OVW, what it was like getting to work for Al Snow, and just the whole experience in OVW.
When I was at OVW before, um, I just to be honest, I was too young. I mean, just the other day, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Dexter Roswell, and we were talking about OVW and bigger places and stuff. And it's the one thing that, being in Southern Illinois, you don't meet people or wrestle with people that have been at that level and been successful for a long period of time at that level.
Yeah,
And it's a different world. And not that that's a bad thing, but it's just a whole different world up there. And um, anyway, I went there, and I mean, frankly, I was too immature, and I didn't understand the number one thing that I think I needed to understand that I didn't get. I was not as good as I thought I was, and I did not understand the business and how the business worked, and at that level. And so anyway, I went, and I just didn't really have a good time. I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how to really how to manifest TV, how to get myself over on TV. I didn't understand any of that, and I finally just quit going. I just decided it wasn't for me, and I quit going. And anyway, I've always, Brandon Espinoza goes there, and Adam Revolver, who is one of the bookers and writers there, has always been a friend of mine, and Espinoza was going back, and Espinoza's one of my really, really, really good friends in the business, and he told me I should think about coming back sometime, and they were having a nightmare rumble, um, and then also there's a referee named Daniel Spencer, who is he's an Impact referee, and when I did the Becky Lynch doctor scene, he was also an extra, and
Oh,
he's a
okay.
ref at OVW. Yeah, and so he's an OVW ref, and a really good friend of mine, good dude, and he
Nope.
that guy's only hit mute on yet, but he had reached out and told me you should look at coming into OVW. He reached out, and Brandon reached out, and they were having the Nightmare Rumble, and they were looking for bodies, and I just reached out, and they brought me in and said they'd love to have me, and they put me in the Nightmare Rumble, and then Al Snow kind of like I did a spot with somebody, and I made them look really good, and I went out of my way to kind of put them over, and Al Snow came up to me, and he said, are you free? At the time, they were doing tapings on Tuesday night, and he said, are you free on Tuesday? And I said, yeah, we'd like to bring you in. And I said, okay. And they so just that Tuesday I came in, and they had me booked to wrestle 2 matches, one on their YouTube show and one on live TV. And one of them was a 10-minute match. And they were like, we you can work, and we want to put you in this match. And I was, very a little nervous, to be honest. And so I wasn't doing stride, and at the time, and I'm a wrestler. Wrestlers wrestle, and so anyway, I decided to they asked me to come back, and then I came back the next week, and I mean, they just kept putting me on TV, and I mean, it's one of those things where if you can work and you can wrestle and you look good, where they can put you on TV, then they're going to find a way to put you on TV, and a lot of the talent there liked working with me, and so they would request to do stuff with me, and guys will request them to work, and then they reached out and offered me a contract, and I signed it, and then I was committed to them, and then they I was basically, I mean, I got to go out, and they always put me on TV every week, and they always took care of me, and they were good to me, and I'm going to be honest, that was the most fun I've had in wrestling in a long time. And I think it was because at Stride, I'm the booker, not anymore, but I'm the booker, I'm the owner, I'm the head trainer, I'm I'm the problem solver, I'm the money guy, and at OVW, I was a talent, and I got to get booked, and I loved it, and then basically what happened was I got offered a coaching job at my daughter's school where I teach, and that wasn't the only issue. Last year, I was able to do it, and because schools ended at 1:00. Most of the schools in the Southern Illinois area, I know you got friends that are from abroad,
Right.
Southern Illinois area schools, they get over it. Last year because of COVID. They were releasing people early, about 1:00 or noon, which allowed me to get to Louisville. This year, schools did not do that. They're going full days. Well, what had happened was I could have used, every teacher gets a planning period. I do not get one because of the way it is, but they were going to work my schedule to where I could basically leave every day at 2 o'clock, and and they do something called athletic PE, and they were going to allow me to leave, and but then I got offered this coaching job, and I said at the very beginning, I'm a dad, and dad comes first, and and I played college baseball and or college cross country, and I felt like I owed it to my daughter. You know, I teach at her school. I teach high school health and PE. Oh, the radio turned on. There, you guys go listen to that. But I took it upon myself to that I was going to coach, and so anyway, I reached out, and they said, well, they had some stuff they wanted me to do, and some people they wanted me to put over. The sad part was, what really stunk was I was getting ready to get into a pretty good storyline. And they were, and you talking about Al Snow, what I loved about Al Snow and what I love about OVW, if you suck and you crap the bed, they tell you sucked and you crap the bed, but they tell you what you can do to make it better. And and Al Snow would always, after every match, he's in Gorilla, and he would always tell you, and Doug Basham, I mean, those guys really, really helped me and told me what they wanted and what they expected, and listening to them, and basically, just, Al constantly telling me, you know, I talked to this talent and he told me that you did this and how good you were at this. And I went back and watched it, and he was right. And so, um, it, I did all the WWE stuff early on, and I did OVW stuff. And don't get me wrong, I was very successful at that time, but I didn't understand it. And, um, but this time at OVW, like, I wasn't cocky, I wasn't arrogant, I wasn't full of myself. I just wanted to have a good time, and I really understood what they wanted from me on TV, and I really understood what they wanted from me um, as a character, and I understood my role. And so, and then it's they always told me, you look like $1 million, you look like $1 million, and I knew that the way I stayed in shape, and I knew psychology, and I knew how to work. I knew how to work the cameras. Luckily WWE and those places teach you that, and OVW taught me that before. And um, but a funny story about OVW, when I was there before, the hard camera was in a different spot. So I come out to watch the Rumble, and they're like, "Man, you did stuff so good. However, you weren't working the camera. You had your back to it." And I said, "No, I was working the hard camera." And they said, "No, the hard camera." And I said, "Isn't it?" And I pointed to the stage, and like, "Oh no, it moved. It's over there."
Oh no.
And so the whole time I worked my back to the camera, and I was like, and they were like, "Well, we know you know how to work a camera because you were working the camera, just the wrong one." Um, but anyway, it was being at OVW was um, being back there. It was I was legit sad. I told my wife, I said, this is the only time in wrestling that I've ever walked away from something that I'm genuinely sad about. Um, I've never walked away. Usually, when you walk away from a company, or talked about AEPW or Pro Wrestling Collision or even SICW, which I loved, when you walk away, you're ready for a break from that. You're just drained, you're exhausted. It's not the way you're wanting it to go, or maybe it's just the drive or the hours. When I walked away from OVW this last time, I did not want to. I worked one of the Tate twins who's been on AEW a few times, and we had a fantastic match, and um, we got done. He's like, "That's the best singles match I've ever had." That's what he told me, and he shook my hand. And then the next weekend, I got to work. Oh, I'm drawing a blank now, but he's OVW's champ right now. Um, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
I will Google that for you
Anyway,
right now.
Oh my God, his name was Skid Marks on Tough Enough. Um, I'm dude's gosh, super talented.
It's according to this Google search. So Ryan Howell.
Ryan Howe, yes, Ryan Howe. He was Skid Marks on Tough Enough. We had a fantastic TV match, and Ryan got done and told me how great it was, and then he sent me a Facebook message to tell me that was some of the most fun he's had in a long time, and so I was genuinely sad, and I didn't want to leave, but I've said this before. That OVW match against the Tate twins, it was sold out. It was packed. We got 10 minutes on live TV. It was a Kentucky tournament match. We had managers involved. We got a couple falsies in. Crowd was into it. They were hot. I mean, they popped for everything we did. Al Snow hugged me when I came through the thing, gave me a fist pump. Doug Basham loved it, and I left, and I felt so good. I mean, I was on a high. However, my daughter pitched a perfect game, struck out 20 out of 21 batters. I got more joy out of that than I did that night. Being able to be there and witness it and see that and see the excitement. And if you know me with my daughter, and I think Bull called me, he said he's Homer Simpson, and I'm, just a great dad. But if you see me with my daughter and you see us together, I mean, she really is my best friend. And so if you were to watch us play, she's constantly looking to see where I'm at. When she plays basketball, I don't coach her basketball team. She looks for me, and she lives with me, and we really are. And so I it was that was the most torn I've ever been between, but my daughter's always going to win. But walking away from OVW and walking away from that contract, it was very tough. It was very difficult, because I kind of felt like I never felt like when I was at WWE before, when I got to go in and do stuff and I did tryouts, I never felt like I had a shot to really do anything. I never did. I never felt like, because I didn't feel like I understood. I didn't. I didn't understand the game. I didn't understand how to really work and how to put people over. This last time when I was there, I was clicking on all cylinders, and I knew what to do. I knew what was expected. I knew how to make it work. And they were relying on me to help put matches together. And they would let me put matches, and they would listen to my opinions and let me input, and got to walk away from it. And it was the most difficult thing I've ever walked away from in wrestling.
Um, First of all, I admire the hell out of you for doing that. Because I don't know if I'd be able to if I was in your shoes. So big, big major props there. When you made the decision to walk away from OVW, what was the reaction like from the OVW brass? Like, were they kind of like, well, pal, you're walking away from a big opportunity, or were they understanding? I know these days in pro wrestling, you see a lot more open-minded people about family life in management positions, and I think that's a good thing personally. But I also know that Al and Basham are very very old school. So did they respect that? Were they disappointed? Did they
Oh,
give you any feedback?
they 100% were cool about it. They were very supportive. The first person I talked to was Adam Revolver, and he 100% got it. I mean, he's got a child, he's got a son. He understood it, and he was like, no, no, no problems at all. To be honest, the people Al Snow, I went into his office and I told him, and he's like, "Be a dad," and I saw him actually. I went to the Lexington Comic Con and I saw Al, and that's the first thing he asked me was how teaching was going. So, um, I'm pretty open. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. That's what I am. That's what I enjoy being. That's what I want to be. And I've made mistakes in my life. I made tons of them. I haven't always been a good husband. I haven't always been. I mean, I've been divorced. I've not always been a great dad. But now I feel like that's what I want to be. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great dad. That's the things I look forward to being. And they were super supportive of it. I mean, there was no pushback. There was no nothing. To be honest, telling Brandon Espinoza, who I rode with every week, who we talked about family and each other. We were friends and we rode together every week for months. I mean, I was there. Um, I mean, I went there I think in November, and then my last one was the last week in July, I think, something like that. And so, I was there for 10 months, 9, 10 months, every week, every single week, and then pay-per-view. So um, you that was the hardest part, was telling him and then telling the talent, that you weren't coming back anymore, and messaging them and talking to them. That was the hardest part, because that's the one thing I miss about wrestling is the wrestlers that are your friends that you see. I mean, if you think about when I was at one point, I was Pro Wrestling Collision champ, I was SICW champ, and I was Strictly Insane champ. And Axe Allward also worked at those three shows. So I saw Axe Allward three times every week or every month at least.
Right.
And so you see these guys every week. You see Brandon Espinoza every week, and then you see Daniel Spencer and these guys that are your friends, and then you don't see them anymore. That's the hard part. It's kind of like graduating high school, really, to be
Right.
honest.
Yeah.
Um, when a company closes, you just don't see them anymore, and that's the hard part. I mean, even gosh, you had Bull on, and me and Bull traveled together. Yeah, we went to SIC together. We went to Tennessee together. Me and Bull traveled together. That's what we did, and we live in the same area, and I hardly ever see him anymore. It's I mean, even today, I'm driving. There's a basketball game tonight. I have to do a broadcast for where I'm a commentator. But when you called me, I was finishing up grading papers. I mean, you don't have time, and it's tough. That's the one part that I hate about wrestling, is just not seeing the people anymore.
Um. So you kind of mentioned you've walked away from wrestling, or at least took a step back. You did have a match, first tried in between. Well, we'll get to that here in a second. But after the Cash Borden storyline with Kevin Huntsberger at Rent One Park, what was it that made you want to wrestle that show? What was it about that evening? I know um, you disclosed on social media it was a very special night for you. Take me through that night.
I mean, Curly got healthy enough. We did the show, the main. We talked about that APW show, Resurrection. We did that for Curly, and Curly got, he killed himself to get himself where he needed to be physically, and he was able to wrestle. And we were doing Rent One, and I hadn't wrestled, really. I hadn't wrestled for Stride, and we, you know, Kevin's my friend, and I like Kevin, and I like Curly. That they're just, me and Curly tagged together. We talked about that on the podcast, and I'm just friends with all these guys, and we've been friends for a long time, and we had an opportunity to work this show, and we had Brian Richards and those guys that were tagging together, and I mean, just it was I'm at a point now to where I want to do stuff that I enjoy. I want to wrestle people that I like, that I know I can have a good match with, and being able to tag with Curly and Kevin, it was special to me. And some of the most fun I had was tagging with Kevin and wrestling with Kevin, and then also with Curly. That's some of the most fun I've ever had in the business. So being able to do that was important to me. And it was just a fun night. It wasn't serious. There was no storyline. There was no politics. It was just a fun night of wrestling, and that's what I wanted. And I didn't want anything else than just to go out and laugh and have a good time with my friends.
Awesome. Um, so after that, you well, there starts to be some cryptic things popping up on Stride social media pages, and eventually it's revealed that the person watching the Champion Riser was you, and you're kind of going in a different direction now in Stride. Uh, what was what made you want to go back to Stride? What was the idea behind this change of direction? And just take me through your return and kind of what you're doing now.
To be honest, I've always wanted to be a heel. I was actually a heel in Tennessee starting out, and I really enjoy being a heel, and I've always wanted to be. However, living in here, being a teacher, uh, being the owner, it's kind of impossible. And but I never felt like I could, and not to be cocky or arrogant, but I get cheered, and I do, and fans, they do like me, and a lot of it because they recognize me from AEPW, from WWE, from being a teacher, from my TikToks, from whatever. People recognize me, and people cheer for people they recognize.
Right.
And that's the thing, when all these local companies, Ain't a Fight, Underground, all them guys, and they bring in names, they get cheered for. Even if they're a bad guy on TV, they get cheered for because fans cheer for who they know. And then I kind of felt like Riser has finally, I've waited so long. I thought it was going to be Red Daniels, and Red Daniels found other interests and took a break from wrestling. And I was looking for that next guy, and uh, finally, Riser's figured out how to be that guy, and so finally, I can put somebody in that spot that gets it and understands how to be that guy, and so that allows me to be a heel. And now finally, you know, got Dexter Roswell is getting it, and he's figuring it out. Like, I've been waiting for him to figure it out. That, like, I mean, I've told him it's not about you. It's about the guy you're wrestling, and that's been the only thing that's ever held Garrett, or Dexter Roswell back, is quit thinking about you and think about your opponent. And he's finally figured that out. He's finally figured out, and it clicked. You could tell when him and Elijah Scott Phoenix had their feud, it clicked with him.
Hmm.
And I think he finally figured out, okay, if I make him look good and I beat him, that's all I have to do. And so now he's figured it out, and he's figured out how to be that guy. And it's made it where I can now be a heel. And then you have Roger, who is kind of the backstage guy, and he handles the training. And now he knows how to talk to people, how to give feedback, how to encourage, how to teach. And he's figured out how to do that role. And so it's allowed me to where I can just show up and be a jerk and beat up Riser and go home, which is what I've wanted to do for years. And I kind of like it. I kind of like people don't know who I am. They don't know when I'm going to show up. Don't know what I'm going to do. I like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of been nice.
Well, I know you're a busy man, so we got to get you out of here. But I appreciate you taking this time to do this. Appreciate you always having time for to do an interview, or at least try and make time. I know you got a lot going on, but thank you so much for doing this one more time. And well, we may have a part four with everything going on. So,
You never know.
but
I appreciate it.
I wish you nothing but the best, and I look forward to seeing when you show up next.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right. And
Bye.
thank you all for listening. And if you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.